Congratulations on receiving your honorary award today. Could I ask you first of all what it means to you to be receiving this honorary award from the University of Warwick?
Well, clearly it's a great honour. University of Warwick is such a world-renowned university, so that is absolutely an honour. But I personally, on a personal note, I really value education. I sort of came to it late in life. Wasn't a great student when I was young, but the minute that I recognised the sort of beauty and empowerment of learning, it's always been a very important part of my life, and it's enabled me to do, getting a really good education has enabled me to do a lot of things in life.
Wonderful. Could you talk a little bit about your role as Master of the Lord Leicester? I understand you're the first female Master in the institution's history, and it has a very long history. What does the hospital do, and what is your vision for the future for it?
Well, indeed, it is the Lord Leicester Hospital is an icon of Warwick. It's a medieval gem in the centre of Warwick. The reason that I say it's an icon is because it really stands for 700 years of governance, civil society, and philanthropy in the heart of Warwick. From the very beginning, in the Middle Ages, when the guilds of Warwick built the buildings that are the Lord Leicester Hospital today, there have been masters, first for the guilds, and then in the 1500s, masters of the Lord Leicester Hospital. And so in this very, very long line of masters, almost 700 years of masters, living at the Lord Leicester and living in the master's house, I am the first female that's been given the title. And that's a great honour. I'm very proud of that. In terms of the future for the Lord Leicester, one of my remits is to really ensure it's on financially sound footing for the future. At the moment, it's a heritage site at risk. So a lot of my work will be galvanising the local Warwick community and Warwickshire indeed to really protect and ensure that the Lord Leicester Hospital has a future.
That's great, thank you. And the hospital is very, very much it's a hospital for retired soldiers, retired and wounded soldiers, and obviously one of the reasons you've been chosen is your own military career. Can you talk a little bit about, I understand you started in the British Army, you've worked in Kabul and some very senior positions. What strength do you think you brought to that role, and did being a woman help or hinder?
Yes, certainly the Lord Leicester Hospital, according to its charter from the 1500s, was set up as a place of refuge for wounded warriors of the Elizabethan age, and there have always been clergymen or military officers who have been the masters of the Lord Leicester. I checked that box because early on in life I spent 6 years as a British Army officer. But then later on I went to the United States, and from then on I've always worked either for the US government or or NATO, or in various other organisations, non-profit organisations in the United States. Those jobs have taken me to some very interesting places all over the world, oftentimes in conflict zones, Afghanistan, the Balkans, and particularly Afghanistan had a huge impact on me because I spent 5 years there in country at a very crucial time. And so I think being in Afghanistan really gave me an appreciation for what it's like to be a young soldier in the trenches, fighting a battle far from home. And of course we all know that many of them were killed and many of them had sustained lifelong injuries. The Lord Leicester Hospital is a place where young soldiers like that can find a home and a community of like-minded brothers in arms. And our latest addition to the Lord Leicester Hospital is Guardsman John Dawson, who was shot in Helmand with lifelong injuries. He's come to live with us, and he frankly is just a joy to have and has really blossomed in the environment that we offer him.
Do you think that sense of comradeship and camaraderie is an important thing for young soldiers in this situation?
Yeah, clearly, certainly their physical injuries can be looked after with a really good team of experts. But there's always this piece, spiritual if you like, personal piece of them that they find sort of sanctuary, if you like, in environments like ours, where there are other men who've served in battle, or actually women. As the master of the Lord Leicester, I myself have found myself, under small arms fire and being attacked. So I also have an appreciation for that. So it's good to be in an environment of sort of kindred souls, if you like.
You mentioned earlier on the importance you place on education and education for young women. Were you conscious of having a role model in your career, or are you thinking more now that you will try and be a role model for those young women coming through?
I would absolutely just jump at the chance to be a role model for young women. I came in as a British Army officer. There weren't very many women in the British Army, and throughout my career I've really pursued a career that has almost entirely been dominated by men. So it's actually very difficult to have a female role model, and I recognise how important that would have been to me, because it can be tough at times, and I think in many ways this is why this Doctor of Law honour is really important to me, because it recognises the importance of education for women, and I would like to be in a position to be able to give back in some way from what has been for me an extraordinary career.
That's great, thank you. And as a final thought, do you obviously you're going to speak later on, but what words of advice would you give to the young people graduating today as they move forward into the next stage of their lives?
Well, one of the things I'm going to talk about is education for women. In Afghanistan, a lot of the development agencies came to the realization that if you were really going to invest long-term in the stability and progress of the nation, you had to invest in education for women and girls. And I think supporting education for women, not only in this country obviously, but in countries that are less privileged, is really, really important. And whether you're male or female, that is something you can always be aware of, that whenever you have the opportunity to support women, especially underprivileged women, to be all they can be, that is something to be very proud of, and it contributes to our greater well-being in the end.
And just following up that thought, actually, you mentioned that you came to education fairly late. Would you encourage in a non-standard age student, a mature student who is thinking perhaps of taking the plunge and returning to education, would you say that was something that they should take seriously and really think about?
Absolutely. I mean, gosh, the absolute magic for me when I discovered that you could go in a classroom and learn, and the beauty of coming out and expanding your knowledge about the world around you was just an amazing thing. And I don't think you're never too old to experience that, and you should absolutely grasp the opportunity if you can.
Could I be rude and ask what age you were when you went back to education?
I was actually, I think I started my undergraduate degree when I was 26. And then I was doing my graduate degree when I was 31.
Right.
So it's not so old, but I think any time in your life, I mean, it's any time in your life that you have an opportunity to expand your knowledge of the world and the world that we live in is just an amazing thing to do.
That's great. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.